This is Open to Hope Radio, featuring Dr. Gloria Horsley and her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley, coming to you on behalf of the Open to Hope Foundation, dedicated to those who are looking for hope after loss. Now, here's Dr. Gloria.
Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my co-host and daughter,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we have got a great friend on our show today. We love Mitch Carmody, don't we?
Absolutely. We've known Mitch for a very long time, and he is one of the most incredible grief experts there is, and he has had a lot of loss, Mom.
Yeah. Well, you know him through TAPS, too.
I do. He works with TAPS, and that's the Tragedy Assistance Program for survivors of military loss.
Yeah, he is a great guy, and he does Days with Mitch. So when you hear this, you're going to want to get him to come to your group or chapter if you're a Compassionate Friends leader or whatever. And by the way, we want to say that Compassionate Friends is our partner in doing these radio shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Mitch is involved with them, and we're also hoping everybody's going to come to the wonderful conference in Arizona.
Yep, it's in Phoenix in July, and it is at the Fairmont Resort, and it's supposed to be an absolutely incredible hotel and spa.
Yeah. Well, we want to talk today about remembering my child and sibling, because Heidi, talk about the sibling piece for Mitch, and then we'll talk about the child loss.
Well, like I said, Mitch Carmody has had an amazing amount of loss, and what's interesting to me about him and incredible about him is that he is such a positive person. He has really gone on to find hope despite all the losses he's had. And one of the most significant losses in his life, he's had several, but is his twin sister, Sandy, who died in a car accident at 29 years old. She died suddenly, and her 2 children died as well. And that was his twin. So that was a very significant sibling bond that he had with her.
Right. And then 27 years ago, his son Kelly, is that right, Mitch? 27.
Yes.
His son Kelly died of cancer. And, he talks about their journey with that cancer, did everything, went everywhere, and I know people are going to relate to that. But Mitch has taken that tragedy of having his son Kelly die, and he has turned it into a positive thing. He's created a book, a wonderful book called Letters to My Son, which I know is so heartfelt and wonderful, and it is fantastic. Mitch, talk a little bit about Kelly and how old he was, and tell people about him.
Oh, Kelly, he was 9 years old when he died. He was diagnosed about 6-8 months after my sister was killed. So that whole grief of my sibling thing put it on a shelf for a while, and so I'll talk about that. But Kelly, he was our only son. We have another daughter. And he, developed a brain tumor. We had to school. He had a seizure at school, and from that day forward, in February of 1985, it changed our life. 'Cause we had to fight for his life as much as we could. We tried everything traditional, everything non-traditional. But it was an incurable form of cancer, a brain tumor, that they could not get at all. So we ended up selling our house, everything we had, and moved to Mexico for alternate treatments. And we had a miracle healing, and his tumor disappeared, and we thought we had beat this. But we had 6 extra months that we never thought we would have, because his tumor did recede, and it was a remission that gave us time to know that he was dying, that we could live life as every day knowing that he was going to die, but yet we didn't live it that way. We lived life just to the fullest, and so we really got a gift in that.
So Mitch, I just wanted to reiterate what you were saying. So you're saying that Kelly was a very healthy child, and then he got a brain tumor suddenly, and like you said, you moved to Mexico, and he was healed, but then it came back, it sounds like.
Yes, because we had moved to Mexico, then the tumor disappeared, so we told everybody, we're celebrating, and we decided to live in California for a while, and we lived in San Diego, put him in school. I started working. I went to school to become a massage therapist to be able to help facilitate healing for him.
Mitch, I didn't know you could give me a massage.
Yes.
Whoa.
I usually don't say that at a conference because people line up, but it really did help him, and we did acupuncture, and we went on a macrobiotic diet.
And your wife's a nurse,
and
right?
my wife's a nurse. And then,
Wow.
in fact, she wasn't a nurse at the time, but after Kelly died, her Turning Loss to Legacy, which is the second part, the name of my book, is Turning Loss to Legacy, is that she went back to school to become ICU nurse. She wanted to be the best a person she could be to help others. And that's what I started to do. I wanted to help people. That's what kind of pulled me out of my grief is helping other people. But it took a long time to get there.
Oh, yeah, I want to talk about that time. Talk a little bit about that first year, because you're sounding like, oh, gosh, we went on and, did this and had time to grieve. How was it that first year? That moment that they said he's gone, I think is trauma.
It was. We were buoyed up so much by the healing, and we thought that we had beaten this. And then when we came back to Minnesota, and he died on a couch at home. We rented a home just for a couple months because we had sold everything, so we rented a home. It's a hospice basically, and he was on the couch for days, and we didn't know when it would happen. And but when he did die, all his friends were. It's a magical day that day because so many people came over to say goodbye on this one day. Even my aunt came, and she said she had a dream that angels came to her, that I was supposed to come over to see you and bring angels.
Oh my gosh!
And she came over that day, and she said, "I'm bringing angels with me." And everybody said goodbye to Kelly, and But he was out of it for 3 or 4 hours, and we thought he's dying right now. And we were trying to find our daughter, who was with friends. There was no cell phones.
Now, how old is she?
She was 5.
Okay. And
so finally she arrived at the door and knocked on the door and came up and said, I'm home. And he had not moved in 3 or 4 hours or opened his eyes. He opened his eyes, turned his head for her voice. Wow. So when you think that someone's dying and they're out of it, they're not hearing what you're saying, not hearing what you're talking to them, they do hear. They do listen. And he was waiting for his sister. She came upstairs and just grabbed his hand and said, Kelly, I love you. I'm sorry I'm late. And he just took one last breath, and he smiled. His eyes glowed, and he was paralyzed in his mouth, and his eye was matted shut. But for a second there, he was looking through me, and he smiled like he could see something. So it's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life, which is so hard to say for the death of your son. But then when I went to sleep that night and woke up the next morning, my whole world caved in.
Well, and it speaks of the power of the sibling bond as I'm hearing this story. I mean, in that last moment where he looked at her right before he died.
Yes, that sibling bond, and also the sibling bond that I knew because my sister Sandy was she was a back in the day they called them Jesus freaks, but she was a very Jesus was her Lord and Savior, and that was all she talked about. So she had talked about going to heaven, and she was looking forward to that day. So that gave me peace that she was going where she thought she should be, and she went with her boys, and I thought she's going to be there waiting for Kelly, and that gave me peace that I know that she would be there for him.
They say, a sudden death is harder than an illness because with an illness you have time. But you know what? You also have structured your life around that person. And so when they're gone, you really have to recapture. For many people who've been caregivers and done the kind of things you do, you have to rebuild your life.
Oh, you definitely. It is, and the whole concept of anticipatory grief, that's just words. There's nothing that can take away the surprise that he has cancer, he's going to die, but it does not take away the shock. It does not take away the pain. And it's a whole, no matter how it happens, if it's long-term illness or if it's sudden. My sister was killed in a minute. We never saw the bodies. There was no caskets at the funeral. It was like they disappeared off the planet.
Yeah, tell me how many people died. Your sister and...
Yeah, my twin sister and her 2 boys, my brother who died in a state hospital, and my father when I was 15.
Yeah. So you've had a huge amount of loss.
Yes, and I had the difference in the difference, with my sister, the whole sibling piece, that it wasn't until I went to a Twinless Twins conference in Nashville, and I'd never heard of Twinless Twins. Who knew that there was an organization for twins who had lost a twin? So 125 people at this conference, and I look around, and you think you're going to a twins concert, but no one looks alike, and you think, oh my God, that's right, because all our twins are dead.
Right.
But
that's a good point. I never thought about that.
It's a very interesting thing. But when you're there and talking to these twins, because I put my sister's grief on hold for so long.
And now this is just recently, isn't it?
Yes, it's just this summer. So it's been 30. In fact, my sister died, it'll be exactly 30 years that she had died, and now it's 30 years. She was 30 years old. I had her for 30 years, and now it's been 30 years she's been gone. So very interesting to go to the Twinless Twins and talk, and I started feeling a term I call twins energy. I felt it in this room. All these people had the same twins energy that we know our sibling. It's such a special bond that we were womb mates. We had 9 months within the womb to know each other. That they have there's documentation that does affect you. There's whatever happens in the womb. And so to see these other people, there was a girl that I did on the walk. They had a walk, and she had lost her twin, Matt. And he was, and she was 30 years old. And so we went on the walk, and I'm walking with this twin who lost her twin. She's 30 years old. I'm 60 years old. But we were laughing and giggling. I was teasing her like I was teasing my sister. And she said, Mitch, you're just like Matt. You are. I can't believe you're like Matt, my brother. And she had such a healing for that day. She's been emailing me ever since. That when I talked about, as being twins, we always had bunk beds, and you move them across. The first time we moved our bunk beds across the room from one wall to the other, from winter to summer, because in the wintertime you put it by the heat duct, in the summer you put it by the window. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so we had kind of an old house. And but when we moved the bunk beds, you could see the booger wall line. There was a whole line of boogers along the edge of the bunk beds. and I said that, and she started laughing. So Matt had a booger wall too. I said we were womb mates, and she showed me she had a womb mate tattoo on her foot. And so we had this immediate bond that if you're not a twin, you don't get it.
Okay, now I want to say to you, I'm listening to this show, and I am thinking, you're excited about dealing with your grief and loss these years after.
Yes.
What's that about?
I got to talk about Sandy again. Oh, my God. It was so wonderful to be out there and talk about my sibling. And there was twins there. There was 3 sets of twins that had lost their twin at birth. There was one who was 25 years old, one who was about 40, and one who was 65. And they go to the Twinless Twins Conference every year, celebrating the life of their twin and getting this peace they get from being amongst other twins, because we feel that twinship among each other that we're missing that whole year. So now I'm in. I'm going to go to. I'm speaking next year in Detroit already.
Well, and I've got to say something else about the sibling piece. A lot of siblings, you put your grief on hold because you were grieving the loss of your son. A lot of siblings put their grief on hold because they're trying to be strong for their parents and take care of their parents. And when I hear Mitch, I just want to say to everybody out there, it's never too late to start talking about your grief around your sibling.
Oh,
you did it years later.
I did it many years later. Then when my daughter, who was 6 years old when Kelly died, when she went to the first conference to see, what do you do, Dad? What do you do in this grief world anyway? And so she went to the Chicago TCF, and for the first time she went, and she's 30-some years old, and she has a child at home. That was her first child. And she said she was there and she saw all this was happening. She heard me speak. She saw other people coming up and talking to me, and she just lost it. She cried and she screamed and raged for the injustice of losing her brother so young. And she said, Dad, I get it. I was so mad because Kelly was the center of the universe when he was sick, and then he died. And I thought, now it's my turn to be center of the universe. And you never let go of him. Kelly lives on. Kelly lives on. I go, oh my God. She goes, now when's my turn? She goes, and I was mad at you. But now that I'm a mom, honey, Dad, I love you so much. I know why you guys were so screwed up for so long. I said, thanks, honey.
I love it. I love it. I want to talk a little bit. I love that you called this turning loss into legacy. So you became a massage therapist. Now you've become a grief education expert. Your wife's a nurse, and I know she loves it.
Yes.
And so there is life after loss, right? And hope?
Oh, hope, yes. And hope was such an abstract idea initially, and I was grieving the old way. My mom told me, buck up and put it behind you, son. It's over. It's over. When you're dead, you're dead. And I saw you do what your parents tell you or what you've witnessed and how to handle grief. And she handled a lot. So I said, okay, I bucked it up and I didn't get over it, though. And she couldn't stand me not getting over it. Put it behind you, son. Put it behind you, son. Why are you believing in all this? And so I didn't have any hope for a couple of years until I started actually serving other people. That first year was just numb, and I did what my mom said. And then the second year came, the numbness wore off, and I said, I can't do it like Mom did, And then Kelly gave me a wonderful sign that I knew that he existed another existence beyond this one. So the grief was a little bit less for me because I felt, well, he's not completely gone. I still can have a relationship with him, and that what's brought me back. And I said, I want to be of service to people in legacy of Kelly's name. And so I said, I want to give blood. I said the only thing that made me feel good, I happened to go to give blood one day, and I said, "Oh my God, this is the best I've felt in 2 years." And I said, "Can I give blood again?" And they said, "No, you got to wait 6 weeks." I said, "Oh, I can't. Are you kidding me? I can't wait 6 weeks. I need this. It's like a mojo for me." I said, and they said, "Well, you can do apheresis, which you can do every 3 days." I said, "Sign me up." So I started doing giving blood as much as I can. So before I came to New York, I just gave blood again, and I just got my 40-gallon pin.
Oh, my God.
And those are all in legacy to my son.
That's amazing.
I thought you might, we've got to go back and say, what was the sign he gave you?
It was... I asked him, when I wrote my book, Letters to My Son, it wasn't intended to be a book. It was just a catharsis for my soul. And I wrote just letters to him. Kelly, how you doing? Remember when we were in Hawaii? Remember when you used to kill your hamsters or, whatever? I just talked about everything. We laughed. We laughed. I said we laughed. We talked. I was laughing. I was crying when I was writing these letters. And I said, "Kelly, I believe that you survived death." And I said, "Give me a sign that something growing in our yard. We just bought a brand new house, and give me a sign, something growing in the yard, and I'll know it's you." And that spring came and the snow melted, and I quit. I didn't get a chance to mow the backyard right away. And 3 corn stalks grew up in our backyard. And they stayed all summer long, and I was just amazed. I said, "Kelly gave me 3 corn stalks as a sign." And then my daughter comes home from school in September and said, "Dad, look at this book. It's the 3 corn stalks." And it was about Mexico. And we were in Mexico where we had the healing. And I said, this is just another layer of validation. And then on December 1st, on the anniversary of his death, a mourning dove came in our door and was pecking at the window, and I went out and looked, and I said, "Okay, now I got my awareness up." And I said, "What's this mean?" And it's a mourning dove, M-O-U-R-N. And I followed it out in the yard. It flew over the cornstalk. I went out and said, "Okay, what?" And I pulled the corn out of the snow, peeled it back, and on the corn, it had molded, and the back of the husk had the capital D, capital A, capital D imprinted in mold on the back. That changed my life completely. That's when I said, I'm going to write my book, and I want to get this book to any other bereaved parent out in the world to know that this book is like a roadmap of that first year, because the letter I wrote 3 months, and I'm telling Kelly, "Give me a sign. I'm doing okay. I'm back at work. It's not as bad as I thought it would be." And then I look at the letter I wrote 8 months down the road, and I said, "Kelly, I'm going to join you soon because I've been in bed for 3 days. I don't care about anything, and I want to walk in front of a truck."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was very honest. I told Barb that, and she said, "Well, I'm going with you." and we actually talked about that, but we couldn't do that to our daughter.
Right.
But the ideation was there. It was a natural feeling that the pain was so bad that we wanted to escape that pain, but we knew we couldn't.
I think that's one of the things we talk about, isn't it, Heidi? That you want to join them.
Absolutely. And like Mitch said, you can't because, the biggest fear of a child after a sibling death is that somebody else in the family is going to die.
Yeah.
Or that something's going to happen to our parents because we see them in such great pain.
Yeah.
So,
Mitch, we're going to have to wrap this up now, buddy, and tell us how we can get your book.
HeartlightStudios.com or HeartlightStudios.net. It's not in the bookstores, but it is available through my website.
Yeah.
Or even Facebook. Just Mitch Carmody, Facebook me.
All right. Well, before we close the show, I would like you to give some advice to the people that are listening to the show. What are some ways that people can find hope if they're feeling pretty desperate right now about the loss of any family member?
I'd say first year, don't worry about hope as much as self-care. Take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Cry when you need to cry. Tears are toxic. So let your body do what it's supposed to do for you and let your body grieve. Then when you get that second year, then you start to say, I'm going to start setting goals like Viktor Frankl. Set a goal every day. Try to set some goal like I did with giving blood or whatever the goal it is you can. But turn your broken heart into a servant's heart. And when your heart becomes a servant's heart, everything changes.
So turn your broken heart into a servant's heart.
Yes, and serve others. And then as you serve others, like St. Francis said, when you serve others, it comes back to you. And when you help others, it helps you. So that's the biggest advice I can give is to help others. If it's just opening a door for somebody, just saying good morning to somebody. And otherwise, we retreat into ourselves. And who is going to broadcast our loved one's legacy louder than us? So that's why the whole ideation of us not carrying on. I said, no, Kelly will die with us then. And I want to keep his legacy alive.
Well, thank you, Mitch, for being on the show today. We really appreciate and love you.
Thanks,
thank you
Mitch.
much. Great to be here.
Thanks so much for all you're doing. And I think, like you said, the first year out there, everybody, you need to be of service to yourself. And thank you so much for everybody that you're serving and for keeping Kelly's legacy alive.
Oh, thank you much. I love you guys, too.
Love you, too. Well, we thank everybody for listening to the show today. And well, Heidi and I just always want to remind you, why don't you say it, Heidi?
If you've lost hope, please lean on ours.
And God bless, and thanks for listening today. And please come to the Compassionate Friends National Conference and have more experience listening to Mitch Carmody. He'll be there, and we'll be there.
You've been listening to Open to Hope Radio, hosted by Doctors Gloria and Heidi Horsley. Like today's edition, all of our past programs are available on demand at opentohope.com, along with helpful articles, videos, resources, and links to help get you through the toughest time of your life. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and sign up for our monthly newsletter. Again, that's Open to Hope.